Be ready. Start. It is the case of the plaintiff that the said agreement was executed by the plaintiff company on behalf of all its subsidiaries and itself. List of subsidiaries of the plaintiff company and their assets were specifically made part of the purchase agreement. It is further stated that the said two parties entered into several other supporting stroke ancillary agreements which were forming part of the composite transaction entered into between them. The purpose of the supplementary and ancillary agreements was only to aid the execution and performance of the purchase agreement, which is the principal stroke mother agreement. Reliance is also placed on the debenture dated 28/4/2011 executed between the plaintiff company and defendant number 20. The debenture provides that security created under the debenture becomes enforceable upon occurrence of an event of default and upon security becoming enforceable. In that eventuality, defendant number 20 has the rights to appoint a receiver to perform various functions as stated in the debenture. The plaintiff was unable to adhere to the scheduled maturity date. It requested defendant number 20 for an extension for payment of the amount due and payable. The said request was accepted and the time period for making repayment was extended. It is pleaded that based on the information made available, a huge amount of is payable by the plaintiff to defendant number 20 on account of outstanding bonds. The secured assets stroke securities of the plaintiff in terms of the debenture dated 28/4/2011 includes interest over the properties of the subsidiaries as the same are directly or indirectly owned by the plaintiff. It is pleaded that on a conjoint and meaningful reading of the debenture along with purchase agreement, it is clear that the subsidiaries, namely defendants number 1 to 15, are also governed by the debenture. It is stated that the circumstances in which they have entered into the agreement reflect a clear intention to bind the signatory and non-signatory entities within the group. It is pleaded that defendants number 1 to 15 cannot encumber or charge etc. their assets without prior permission of the plaintiff stroke receiver. It is pleaded that presently there has been one transaction done by the subsidiaries contrary to the terms of the agreement between the plaintiff and the defendant. However, it is apprehended that other financial facilities are proposed to be sought by the plaintiff and its subsidiaries, that is defendants number 1 to 15, without a prior written permission stroke consent of the plaintiff's receiver. It is further stated that in any case the suit pertains to the rights of defendant number 20 in immovable properties. However, none of these immovable properties owned by defendants number 1 to 10 are located within the territorial jurisdiction of this court. Hence, it is stated that even otherwise, this court lacks territorial jurisdiction to entertain the present suit. 3. It is further stated that the plaintiff has failed to plead any legal rights against the answering defendants. The plaintiff has placed reliance on clause 12 of the purchase agreement, that is, the plaintiff has undertaken that so long as the bonds are outstanding, the plaintiff shall not itself and shall cause each of its subsidiaries not to directly or indirectly create any lien upon their properties, assets, or revenues. It is stated that the clause creates an obligation on the plaintiff and not on the answering defendants. There is no legal or contractual obligation of the answering defendants. The present suit, it is pleaded, is a surrogate action on behalf of defendant number 20 and seeks to circumvent the exclusive jurisdiction clause. It is stated that the answering defendants are separate and distinct legal entities and the plaintiff by virtue of its shareholding, would not be entitled to claim the assets of its step down subsidiaries. The plaintiff could not have validly entered into contracts on behalf of answering defendants, much less encumber assets on their behalf in the absence of any specific authorization. There is no board resolution passed by any of the answering defendants to authorize the concerned director of the plaintiff to sign on behalf of subsidiaries. Hence, it is pleaded that the purchase agreement does not bind the defendants. It is further pleaded that the nature of interest that seems to have been sought by defendant number 20 from the plaintiff on behalf of the answering defendant is not permissible under the Indian law. It is stated that the answering defendant cannot, under the FEMA, give a surety in respect of a person resident outside India. Such a clause would be illegal. It is further stated that the defendants have raised a number of loans for execution of the real estate projects, including from defendants number 16 and 17, and have created encumbrances over assets as security for such loans. It is further stated that as and when the aforesaid loans were availed of for execution of the real estate projects, the same were brought to the notice of the plaintiff and defendant number 20. The said entities were fully aware of such loans being availed by the answering defendants. There is collusion and connivance between the plaintiff and defendant number 20. The plaintiff is seeking relief not for itself but for defendant number 20 by restraining the defendants from creating any encumbrance over its assets. Thank you.